Mimecast's shape of email research attempts for the first time to describe the content of a typical corporate inbox in terms of its importance and the relevance to the user through the eyes of the professionals tasked with its management. One of their findings is that only 25% of emails are considered essential for work purposes, with an additional 14% of critical importance, and 13% of work email is personal, not related to work at all. Joining me in studio to discuss this further, I have Christelle Hecklin, Customer Experience Manager at email management company Mimecast. Christelle, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into some of the key findings of the study, let's start from the top. What's the significance and relevance of understanding the shape of your email?
Well, if you think about IT administrators these days, all of us as IT users, we have an experience of what we think our inbox looks like. But what the shape of email study did is it actually spoke to the IT administrators, the people tasked with managing that mail, to try and see what's actually happening behind the scenes so that we can understand the challenges behind managing email.
Speaking of those administrators, from my experience, the typical CIO or manager is more worried about the size of my mailbox than anything else.
Absolutely, and one of the key findings of the study is that is the biggest thing that a lot of administrators worry about, is the size of the inbox. And you as a normal user, every single day you're like, your mailbox is over its size limit, and you spend half your time managing your mail and deleting things. So those are real challenges that filter down to the users as well.
Let's take a look at some of the key findings. Of course, I mentioned in the intro, only 25% of emails are considered essential for work purposes, with an additional 14% of critical importance. How do you disseminate with those factors? How do you know that this is critical as opposed to it's good to have?
Well, if you then further break down the inbox, it looks like about 40% of mail in the inbox is then only functional. So we're looking at a whole bunch of different things coming into that person's personal mailbox on a daily basis, and what is actually important. And you would know from a personal perspective, if I were to take away all the fluff of all the things that come in on a daily basis, what is absolutely critical? And it's quite eye-opening to realize that most of the information flowing into that inbox, the user doesn't even need on a daily basis to do their job properly. So there's a huge amount of time being spent just managing inboxes to try and get to the critical stuff, that 14%.
And what is the steps to manage those inboxes? What's the role of the CIO or the management team in the IT department to then say, okay, what do we do and how do we handle these inboxes, especially with things like archiving?
Yes. Well, I think the challenge for any CIO and for any person managing a mailbox at this stage is to try and make things easier for the user. And you look at the user pain points like size of mailbox, so things that are coming into the mailbox, and you try and gatekeep that. So first of all, providing a bottomless archive to your users so that they never have to worry about deleting and moving mails. And secondly, of course, stopping things at the perimeter so that all of that junk and spam and those kinds of things don't even make it into the user's inbox.
Because that's my next question. It's around security, because we know with all the worms and trojans and everything attached to emails these days, it is a bit of a risk. Are spam filters and are IT companies managing the risk of spam enough, or is it only what they're focusing on and missing everything else?
I think the evolution of spam management has been such that IT administrators still worry about those kinds of security breaches that are coming into the organization. But the technology available at this stage to keep spam and viruses out of your organization is so advanced that the users are getting a lot less of that clogging up their inbox. But then you of course have to think about what is the definition of spam. One person's idea of spam is someone else's daily recipe. So you've got to get more granular and create policies and be able to define what you think is junk and keep that in and out of your organization.
Let's go back to the study. You surveyed over 500 companies or individuals. Well, let's break it down into the small, medium and big corporates. Are we seeing the same trends across the board?
Well, we're seeing the same trends in terms of what IT administrators are worrying about. But when it comes to looking at the shape of the inbox, it's interesting to note that the smaller the inbox, the more organized, and that's normally in the larger corporates. So your larger corporates will have smaller inboxes, but the content of that inbox is a lot more relevant to that user. And I think that probably also ties back to better administration.
And Mimecast plays in the hosted services space, especially mailbox hosting. What is the value to corporates by taking the service out of their IT department and to a company or service?
Well, taking it into the cloud, for example, as Mimecast is a cloud-based email solution, you're taking away the headache of managing mail on site. Now, if you think about any large corporate, you have a job to do. You're a bank or you're an insurance company, or you want to focus on doing what you do best. You don't want to spend half your day managing email. So what Mimecast offers is to take away the headache of the administration, put it in the cloud, and you can control and the ebb and flow of information into your organization, but also out of your organization. And that is also very relevant to corporates in terms of worrying about data leaks and managing users that are out on the road and mobile access devices.
But let's talk about the cloud. It's still a bit of an ambiguous term in South African terms. Usually I speak to the IT experts. Are enough corporates buying into the concept? And when you're dealing with that trust issue of my data is sitting somewhere in a server, I don't even know where it's sitting, and I need to know it's safe and secure. How do you deal with corporates and clients in ensuring that the data is secure from that perspective?
Well, interestingly enough, we just finished another study called from Back Channel, which looked at 3,600 companies in South Africa, and we've seen a trend from 2010 to 2012 of a 40% increase in take-up of cloud technology in South Africa as a whole. So I think that barrier and that fear of is my information safe is slowly but surely being overcome as more and more companies are showing people that their data is safe, it's secure, it's accessible, and also the infrastructure in South Africa is improving to such a point that it becomes reliable for people to trust the cloud.
Chriselle, 30 seconds to go. Your top tip or top understanding of the shape of mailbox, what should corporates remember? A
corporate must remember at the end of the day, email is a functional tool, and it is your job to give your employees the scope to be able to do their job better. So give them the tools, bottomless archiving, give them remote access, give them anything that they need to be able to do their work better instead of spending half their day managing their inbox.